Grampian Nation, welcome back and stand by. We're going to talk to my new Irish friend, Corey Quinn, and he's got a giveaway. So hang on. We'll be right with you.
In 2013, I coined the name Grampian, and I gave it to your host, Jim Tracy.
Corey Quinn, man, welcome to the Grampian. This has been kind of a long time putting together. I'm so happy you're here.
Yeah, well, I think we're both running around doing things, hopefully important things, and so we finally were able to align the stars and find this time. So I'm really excited to be here, Jim.
Exactly, that's awesome. So one of the things that attracted me to you is you like address the need for founders to expand their horizons a little bit. And as I consult with businesses and I see them and they hit this $3 million 10 employee level and everything just stops and it plateaus and they can't get off of it. Is that something that you have obviously seen, experienced, lived, whatever?
Sure.
Former chief marketing officer of Scorpion.
Yeah.
Now you help agencies. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, Jim. So a quick background on me. I've been in the digital marketing space, agency space for about 18 years. I've been in sales for a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
But about 18 years ago, I graduated from the University of Southern California Marshall School of Business, which is their MBA program here in Los Angeles.
All right.
And I was graduating at the time when a lot of the colleagues, my classmates, were all getting into commercial real estate. That was the cool thing.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to get back into the internet. I'd already had a startup, a funded $6 million funded startup that my best friend and I started. And in any event, I wanted to get back into the internet. So I took a job as a salesperson at a digital marketing agency selling SEO and PPC to large retail brands. And so I personally sold large six-figure deals to Lululemon, Remax, Hyundai. We sold to the Men's Warehouse, a lot of other really great brands. And
big names. Those are blue chippers, man.
Yeah, blue chips. These were big three-year SEO, complex SEO deals that we were making 20, 30K a month on. So it was wonderful. I love the art and science of selling. I was the number one salesperson there for 19 consecutive quarters.
Wow.
Of course, the typical evolution is you get elevated into sales management. And then I most recently was recruited to go work at a digital agency called Scorpion. I joined in 2015. At the time, the company was about 100 people. And during my time there, we grew it from 100 people to 1,000 people. We grew the revenue from 20 million to 150 million.
Wow.
And we grew the number of clients from 1,000 to 14,000. We grew the sales team from 6 people to 60.
Wow.
So, and that was a fairly compressed time period.
That's crazy, man. And you think about that for a minute. As we look at that, there are 1,000 people and the product they're selling is their expertise and their time and their and results, obviously.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
But you're not, this is an intangible. This is like one of the hardest sales out there.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as, well, if you're talking about the agency space, I think you're absolutely right, because you have a fairly technical service provider selling to a non-technical buyer who's very skeptical because it's easy for people to be taken advantage of. So there's a lot of charlatans in the market. And so, yeah, it's a very challenging sale. And what the business that I sort of inherited as their chief marketing officer at Scorpion, my role, my responsibility was to help them to accelerate the revenue of Scorpion. I was not client facing; I was internally facing.
Yeah.
And the environment that I inherited when I walked in there was you had a 6-person sales team, and there were a ton of inbounds coming in, which was wonderful. The phone would ring, the sales guy would pick up the phone. 20 minutes later, hang it up. Stand up from their desk, go over to a big metallic gong on the sales floor and strike the gong because they did a one-call close.
Yeah.
And so it was this wonderful sales environment. The challenge was, of course, that the founder of this agency, the successful agency, really wanted to grow faster, wanted to have a greater impact in the world, work with more businesses. So he's had this insatiable hunger to really grow. And so
Almost
My
entrepreneurial.
job, very, very entrepreneurial and big vision and wonderful personality, sort of contagious, kind of really great leader. And the challenge that I had was he was not just willing for me to just kind of babysit or nurse the existing flow of inbounds. He wanted to grow faster than that. So I had to figure out what do we do when we've maximized inbounds, we maximize referrals. Any guesses, Jim, on like what would business owner do if they have done everything they can for inbounds, they've done everything they can for referrals and partnerships, but you want to grow faster. What's the next most logical thing?
Increase everything, advertise,
Yeah, everything.
hire Corey
Exactly.
Quinn.
Yeah. Well, here's what we did, Jim. We did all that. And we also introduced outbound into the sales team, which meant myself and my the other executives had to walk into the sales floor. As I mentioned, we had a 6-person sales team. And trust me, they all drove nice cars. They got to work half days. They made a ton of money. Like that was good for them. These guys.
Yeah.
We had to go in there and say, "Hey guys,
I'll take that gig."
Yeah, right. It was good. It was the gravy train, and it was beautiful on many levels. However, the CEO founder of the agency that at Scorpion had this vision to grow, and so we had to go in there and say, "Love the fact that you guys are crushing it, doing really great. We need to make some changes. First off, we need to give you a quota. Second off, we need to start picking up the phone and calling these businesses, cold calling." And guess how much they love that?
Not very much. It's a 4-letter word called work.
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. Selling is hard in that context. Yeah. And so we tried a lot of different things. We brought in a sales trainer, brought in some methodologies, and nothing really worked for us for a long period of time. We kept at it. And it wasn't until we found out that if you send a gift ahead of a cold call, it actually will transform the energy and the vibe of the cold call. So I'll give you a specific example. So we would sell into attorneys. That was our primary focus, our vertical market. And attorneys, if you've ever sold to attorneys, you know that they have a receptionist or an office manager.
Right.
And that office manager's job is to pick up the phone and screen out any vendor salespeople who are trying to get access to the attorney.
Exactly. Right? We call those the rejectionists, not the receptionists.
Rejectionists. Thank you. Yeah. And they're professional rejectionists.
They're really good at it.
They know exactly how you get you off the phone,
yeah,
to brush you off, to make you feel like maybe I shouldn't call this person again. And so we were struggling because they were shutting us down. It wasn't until we sent gifts. And what we started with was sending gourmet cookies ahead of the cold call. And what we would do is we put it into a FedEx box that was overnighted to the attorney. And of course, FedEx skips the receptionist. It goes right to the attorney, right to their desk in the morning. They get to the office. They open up the FedEx box. They pull out a tin of amazing, delicious cookies. I mean, Jim, these are so good that if you're not holding the wall, you're going to be falling down as you're eating these things. This is how amazing these are, right? So they're remarkable. Okay. They end up getting transferred into the break room, and then eventually everybody in the law firm standing around, having coffee, eating these amazing cookies, saying, "Well, who brought the amazing cookies? Yeah. These are awesome." And someone would say, "Oh, it's this company, Scorpion." And
everybody say, knows my name.
Who's Scorpion? Right. Right. And eventually the name Scorpion's like bouncing off the loft, all the walls.
Yeah.
We called to follow up. And instead of the traditional arms crossed, kind of real negative vibe, you get, "Oh my gosh, wait, you're the ones that sent those cookies?
You're the cookie guy."
Those were so good. Oh my God. We ate way too many of those. Hold on, let me put you through.
Yeah.
Right? And so it worked on a very small scale. And guess what? It works on a large scale as well.
Okay.
We ended up building up what I now call gift-based outbound. We called it something else back then, but gift-based outbound eventually became our number one revenue driver for new business for the agency.
For the price of a cookie.
We spent, what's that?
For the price of a cookie and FedEx.
For the price of a cookie, yeah. It's funny, we would have competitors, I shouldn't say competitors, we would have people who we were not sending cookies to call us and say, "Hey, you're sending cookies to all of our competitors, but not us." What's wrong with us? Like, why are we getting the cookie? Why aren't we on the cookie list?
And that's called an inbound, right?
That's an inbound. Ding, ding, ding.
Outbound creating an inbound.
Let me
That's
get your
awesome.
address.
Yeah. So are you at liberty to discuss the brand of these cookies? Because I'm sitting here and I'm like, I gotta have one.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, my go-to today is, and I don't have a commercial relationship with them, but is this, it's a company called Last Crumb. I don't know if you've ever seen these.
Okay.
They are dubbed the world's most expensive cookies.
Okay.
They are loved by celebrities. They're all over Instagram. It's a very beautiful packaging and comes with a brochure with like beautiful photography and copywriting, and they've got a really kind of edgy, fun positioning. So we tried a lot of
label those for you. You had them like private labeled at tin, or
we would. So the one with the tin was a company. They're not around anymore. Carolina Cookie Company, but we most recently I still recommend Delicious, and they will brand everything as your brand. So
yeah, Delicious. Wow, cool names.
Yeah, it's good. And a great company, real small. It's a local bakery here, and Lydia is the founder. She's the head baker, and she's just fantastic. She takes care of us.
Okay, so you are in this founder constrained business, maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
And how often do you find that?
Well, I mean, so the traditional, or I would say the typical pathway of a business owner, particularly in a service-based business, it's a little different for product-based businesses, but let's call, agencies certainly one, but it's, accountants, attorneys, a lot of businesses fall into this, what I call the generalist trap. And so the typical way you get there is you put out a shingle, right? Maybe you're working somewhere else, you're ready to get out and kind of start your own business, or maybe you moonlight a little bit and you put out an email and say, hey, friends, neighbors, colleagues, classmates, does anyone need a website? Because I'm starting a little web design company, right? And a couple people raise their hands, and you say, yes, I want to work with you. Of course, they're your first clients, so you over deliver on them.
Yeah.
And that results in referrals. And so you get to have some more business, right? And you over deliver on them, and all of a sudden you have a business, right? It's really wonderful.
Yeah.
The challenge, of course, is by saying yes to everyone is it creates two things. It creates context switching internally, which means, well, I sold this dentist a website. So today I'm working on the dentist website, and tomorrow we're going to work on a social media campaign for a manufacturing company. And then, the next day we're going to be working with on a SEO strategy for a retail furniture company down the road. Right. And so you have all this like one-off context switching internally, which results in, as I mentioned, operational inefficiencies. You're unable to really have a true process-driven business because everything's one-off.
Yeah, trying to putt from the driving grid, trying to putt from the tee box.
Right, exactly, every time.
Yeah,
and the bottleneck becomes the founder, because they're the only person in the building knows everything that was sold to every client and where they're at in the process. And so when you have a founder bottlenecked business in that regard, you typically become perceived as a commodity because the results are not specialized, they're not special. And then, of course, when you're perceived as a commodity by your clients, then they're going to leave you, right? You churn clients, you lose clients because they think they can get the same result somewhere else for cheaper.
Sure.
Price goes down. Then and then you end up chasing revenue because you're losing clients, and you have employees, you have a mortgage, you have all the things, right? And so what do? You start to say yes to any revenue that comes your way. Yeah. It becomes a cycle, right? Over and over and over, and you cannot get out of that. And that's what I call the generalist trap. And you're smiling maybe because you recognize this.
Kind of a hamster wheel, man. When you, I mean, I see it in the businesses that I talk to. It's like there's this giant failure to delegate that stems from fear. And I don't know that it's even necessary which business or which service, product, whatever. If you don't delegate, man, if you don't teach, train, and cajole people to do something, they're probably going to end up doing better than you anyway. So you might as well start training and teaching now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a big part. I mean, if you want to stay small, meaning small company,
Yeah.
few employees, sure, you can have your hand in every pot and do
Yeah.
that. There's nothing wrong with that inherently, but it becomes a challenge if you do want to scale up a business
Pretty hard to
into,
scale.
certain, yeah.
For sure.
And so one of the other factors in addition to delegation is I should say the way to get out of the generalist trap in addition to delegating is something I call the deep specialization path. And the deep specialization path is getting focused on one vertical market. Find one industry, not a dozen, find one industry and find a problem that they're struggling with that you could become the best in the world at. When you do that, when you narrow your focus onto one industry, you begin to build expertise.
Sure.
It's like the old Bruce Lee quote, I do not fear a man who's practiced 1,000 kicks one time. I fear the man that's practiced one kick 1,000 times.
Sure.
Right. And so through repetition, by doing the same type of websites, the same marketing campaigns to the same audience over and over and over and over again, patterns emerge. You could become much more process driven. And I think more importantly is that through specialization and expertise, you could actually have a clear differentiation in the market.
Yeah.
Right. And that differentiation leads to premium pricing because you have a truly specialized business that's hard to find.
Nobody can do what I can do now.
Exactly right. And when you have premium positioning, that means you get better clients, you could charge more, which leads to better margin. You need fewer clients that pay you more, right? Which leads to ultimately scalable growth. And so that is the deep specialization path, which is the work that I do today.
So to put it in the language of some other industries, what you're trying to do is you're trying to narrow and deepen that niche so that no one can chase you down that. No one can chase you down. And if they try, they can't catch you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And do you find, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Please. No, go ahead.
So do you find as people encounter some of the difficulties in being the company, being the agency, being the organization that specialize there, how hard is it for them to combat complacency?
Say more about that. What would be an example of the complacency?
If all I do is mousetraps, and I'm the best there is at mousetraps.
Sure.
And other people see me and they go, wow, that mousetrap company, they're killing it. We need to do mousetraps. And they get chased, but you're kind of like, nobody can touch me. I'm the best there is in the mousetrap.
Sure.
Organizations, I think a lot of times fight complacency. How do you keep driving down that niche, making it narrower and making it better?
Yeah.
Or do you add one?
Well, well, I think today's world that we live in is very dynamic. Things are changing fundamentally on every front through AI and technology and all that. So I think there's that dynamic that if you are complacent, if you're not continually investing in your growth as the founder, as the leader in the business, whether it's through networking groups, masterminds, through therapy, whatever that is, there's a great book by John C. Maxwell called the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. It's a classic, right? And one of the laws that has always stuck with me is the law of the lid. The law of the lid is whoever is leading the company, you are the number one constraint in the company, right? And so it's part of the leader's job is to continually eliminate limiting beliefs, add more perspective, get more support, and help you to become a better leader. And so if you are complacent, that says to me that you're not growing, you're not changing. And so it starts with a leader.
That's kind of where I was going, because you really do a lot to address founders, and founders invariably, what I find are the problem that jumps up at a cultural level, at a growth level, virtually at every level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you are, like it or not, you are the center, the cultural hub of the company. Everyone looks to the leader, everyone looks to the founder to understand what's the culture of this business, what are the values of the business, what is not only said but what is lived. And when you have a founder who is disconnected and checked out, and there's no one stepping in from a leader role,
Right.
then what signal does that tell the employees who are
Hey,
drafting off that leader?
check out.
Yeah, time to check out. It's
Everybody's
cruise
check
control
out.
time.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So, as you look at, so, and I don't want to get too far away from this because it's
Yeah,
important that people understand that you have some assets out there for them. And one of those is anyone, not everyone. And that
that's
is
right. That's right.
a best-selling book by my new Irish friend, Corey Quinn. Tell us about your book so we don't forget.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. So the book was something I was really wanting to do after I left Scorpion. So I left at the end of 2021, and I had a choice. I could either go work for another founder
Mm-hmm.
and help them to build their dream, or I can step into my own business and begin to build what I wanted to build. And so the book was a way for me to establish my consulting work.
Uh-huh.
And now I've been a consultant for a while, and I am now also building more of a company. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just a solopreneur; I'm building actually a
Yeah.
company. The purpose of the book specifically, I wrote it for readers who are founders who are stuck in that generalist trap. In it, I
Yeah.
give you the 5 steps to go from being a generalist agency serving businesses of all shapes and sizes
Uh-huh.
to becoming the go-to solution in a vertical market. So
Mm-hmm.
it gives you the 5 as I mentioned, 5 very specific steps to help you to make that whole transformation.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been getting good feedback on it so far.
Yeah. What is your favorite step?
So I think the one that most people get or miss, I should say, is when choosing a vertical market. There's a couple of kind of no-brainer approaches to this. Number
Uh-huh.
one is you go and you look at your book of business and you say, okay, well, where are the trends in my business? What are we doing well? If we're going to choose a specific type of industry to specialize in, let's look and see where we have some good data internally.
Yeah.
The other kind of obvious step is to go into the market and say, well, is there a lot of them? Like if we're going to focus on dentists,
Yeah.
how big is the market? And those are important, essential steps. I recommend those. But there's another one, which is you have to give a damn
Mm-hmm.
about the industry.
Yeah. A little bit
Here's
of
why.
passion. A pound of an ounce of passion beats a pound of polish.
Yeah. And here's why, Jim, because there is no industry that is worth pursuing that others are not pursuing. There
Yeah.
are, so there's going to be, it's going to be competitive, right?
Uh-huh.
There's no market that is devoid of market cycles, good
Mm-hmm.
times and bad times.
Sure.
Probably most importantly is you're going to be spending a lot of time with whoever these people are.
Yeah.
Right?
You might
You're
want to
going to go to
like them.
conferences. What's that?
You might want to like them.
Right. You have to give a damn. And the best people um, become mentally or from an identity perspective, they don't think they're a service provider serving that industry. They believe they are a part of that industry. I'll
Uh-huh.
give you a quick example. One of a really great founder of an agency that concentrates on the construction industry is this guy. His name is Luke, and his agency is called Phaser. And what they do is, I mentioned, they target the construction industry.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a big challenge in the construction industry, and Mike Rowe, the old TV
Yeah.
host from Dirty Jobs, talks about
Sure.
there's a
Workforce
there's a 5 to
development.
2. What's that?
Workforce development.
Yeah, workforce development. So there's a 5 to 2 problem, and he's all about it right now.
Yeah.
So there's a 5 to 2 challenge, which is for every 5 people who are retiring from the construction industry, only 2 people are coming in,
Right.
right? And so there's this massive talent gap in the market.
Yeah.
And so what does Luke, the agency owner who targets the construction industry, what does he do about that? Well, he starts a scholarship and he raises money and awareness for kids who are going into the trades, not just
Uh-huh.
going into college, right? They're sort of skipping
Right.
college, going directly into the trades. And every year he gives away one of those big paper checks
Uh-huh.
with the backdrop and the photo. In an effort to raise awareness of careers in the trades.
Sure.
Okay. He doesn't have to do this, but what
Yeah.
he's recognizing is that the people he's serving, the people who he's effectively in that industry too. He's helping them to solve their
Sure.
problems
Sure.
from the inside, which is very profound.
Kind of his gift to them, isn't it?
Yeah,
Raising
absolutely. And if you
awareness.
were
I
going to,
mean,
yeah. And if you were going to, we talked about at the top of the discussion, if you were going to choose an agency in a world where there's a lot of skepticism and these buyers are not technical, there's inherent safety in hiring Luke's firm because he's very visible. He's in the market. He's contributing to solving the problems of the industry itself.
yeah.
Becomes a much more logical and no-brainer decision.
Yeah. Wow. That is a little piece of genius right there.
Right.
And not only that, but it has all the appearances of being philanthropic. So
Yeah,
it's
it
not
is.
completely self-serving.
Right.
And so now you're being this unselfish specialist who's helping your clients.
Right.
Makes it
How
easier to
about that?
sell.
Makes it very easy to sell because everyone
Yeah.
knows, like, part of the buying process, as we all know, is that you do some research on the firm.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to find out that not only is he specializing in the construction industry, not only does he have great clients that are referenceable, but he also has a scholarship that young kids, go get the benefit of this support to going into the trades.
Right on. Almost better than free cookies.
Absolutely. Yeah. Forget cookies, man. This is the way to go.
All right. So you talk a lot about the importance of a 20% list.
Yes.
Tell us about, because I think this goes over the course of every business, not just like an
Yeah.
advertising agency
Yeah.
or a SEO company. So talk to
Mm.
us about it.
Yeah. So in my experience in working in the agency space and just in life, that the typical way that businesses build sort of revenue is that they try and go out and do a lot of marketing, cast a wide net,
Mm-hmm.
and say yes to a lot of revenue. But what I recommend my clients do and other businesses do in general is that they become really clear on who their ideal customer is. We talked
Mm-hmm.
about choosing the right vertical market,
Yeah.
but then within that, finding the best businesses within that market. So
Mm-hmm.
if you think about the 80-20 Pareto principle,
Yeah.
where 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your clients, or 80% of
Right.
your profits come from. So you have that dynamic, but I want you to apply it to the marketplace. So the
Yeah.
20% list specifically is the list of businesses that are the best fit for your agency,
Yeah.
for your service-based business, and to put an improportionate amount of effort into closing those businesses versus
Yeah.
any business in the market.
So that 80-20 principle, you're carving it
Yeah.
down to your own specific niche. And you're saying
Yeah.
not only who are the best businesses there that I should put my efforts into, but the best businesses that are a fit for me.
That's right.
And that works for
Exactly.
any business, doesn't it?
It 100% does. And guess who
Yeah.
gets added to the gift list? Who gets cookies?
I'm guessing maybe 20% of the best.
That's it. That's it. And the
Perfect.
reality is that most businesses only need a relatively small number of dream clients,
Uh-huh.
when your best clients
Yeah.
on their roster versus a lot of crummy clients.
Yeah.
And so it's
So
worthwhile strategically to focus on them.
yeah, so I have some experience with private equity, and they would say, "Hey, man, you've just got customer concentration that's terrible." Well, how
Mhm.
would you respond to that?
Well, I think customer concentration is a real thing.
Yeah,
And you need to be intelligent not to have more than, let's call it, 20% of your revenue coming from any one client. There is
right.
risk in that, right?
Uh-huh.
But if you do your due diligence ahead of specializing, you should know that there's going to be enough businesses within a vertical market
Mhm.
that you could and should be getting more than just a small handful of 4 or 5 clients, right?
Yeah.
So you can reduce that risk.
And so, if you grow that
Yeah.
successfully, is it possible to add another niche, another vertical?
Yeah. So we did that at Scorpion. When I joined, it was primarily just attorneys.
Uh-huh.
By the time I left, we were in 4 vertical markets:
Right on.
attorneys, home services, franchise, and then medical. And if you look at it from a systematic perspective, the figure that I use is 3% of the total addressable market. When you've
Mhm.
closed a certain percentage, 3%, let's call it, that is evidence that you have credibility, authority, recognition, expertise in that vertical market. You already have 3% of the entire market.
Mm-hmm.
That signals to you as the founder that, hey, I could lift my head up. Well, I have this great business going, got a lot of systems and people and a lot of momentum in this one direction. I could lift my head up and identify a shoulder industry, something is related that we can start to build some incremental effort into.
Perfect. Yeah. So what I'm hearing is 3% is at some level saturation of the best.
I would say saturation. I would say it's evidence that you have momentum, you have efficacy, you have some level of you've established yourself to the degree that you don't have to, as the founder, continue pushing 100% into that direction. The business does, but that you could actually lift your head up and go a different direction.
Right on. Okay. So tell our listeners, Corey, where they can find you.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim. So I wanted to actually give everyone, if this conversation is interesting to you, if the idea of specializing, going from a generalist to a vertical market specialist, becoming the go-to solution in a market, I highly recommend you go check out my book, anyoneenoteveryone.com. And for your listeners, Jim, I will give everyone here a free copy of the audiobook.
Right on.
For anyone who wants it. It's the same audiobook that you pay Audible to get. It's the same exact audiobook. And you also get workbooks, a bonus workbook, and videos and templates and all this great stuff. So you can do all the steps inside the book. You just have to go to anyoneenoteveryone.com. That's anyoneenoteveryone.com, and you can get access to all of that.
And you can look for that in the show notes. And the name of the book again is Anyone, Not Everyone. That's it. Corey Quinn, thanks for being our guest. But before we go,
thank you.
You've lived a big life. You've obviously grown, from little to large and up to $150 million company, which is pretty huge. So at the Grampian, we talk about not just the grind, but the champions who've actually helped deliver you to where you are. Can you tell us about a champion who affected your life in such a significant way that you got to talk about him?
Yeah, absolutely. So the person who comes right to the top of my list is our sales trainer. I mentioned early on that we brought a sales trainer in. His name is Rory Clark. And Rory was amazing because he is a true expert in sales coaching, sales leadership. And I learned so much from him. He was instrumental in our ability to scale the sales team from 6 to 60. And so what I loved about him was that he understood the essence of excellent selling. He was great helping us to all learn that. And he was also a minister. So he was also connected to God, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Nothing happens till someone sells something, right?
That's it. That's it. And all sales cures all.
Sales, revenue cures a lot of problems, man.
Yep, it does.
So if you're a founder, I want you to go look up anyoneenoteveryone.com, get a copy of the book, and put it into practice, because this is not coming from somebody who hasn't done it himself. Corey, we appreciate you. Thanks for coming on the Grampian. And hey, folks, until next time, this is Jim. I'm out, but you keep chasing those Grampian dreams. We'll see you. When you get an opportunity, subscribe or follow wherever you get your podcast.